Hey everybody, it's Shannon, the Recycleista, and it has been a while since I've done a video, and I just thought we're in the same boat as most everybody else. We're staying at home most days and not outsourcing for new thrifted items to resell for our Etsy and eBay shops. But I do have quite a backlog and some stored inventory that we've been working on. And so actually it was my husband had an idea for this new segment that we're going to try out, hopefully do a bit regularly. It's called the Resellers Report. And his idea, as we were talking about it, kind of stems from the idea that the part that we really like about thrifting and reselling, besides the flipping part and the money you can make, but also just the stories and the histories behind the items that we find, especially dealing with vintage, which we tend to deal with quite a bit. So what this segment is, I'm going to keep it pretty short this first time, see how it goes. But I have picked out about 5 items that I am going to try to work on getting listed over the next week or so. And I pulled these out of storage and just kind of from my backlog. And we'll just kind of talk about them and talk about some of the research and the stories that we found. So I'm going to start off with one that was actually a pretty interesting story about how I got it. I'll show it to you. It's a bracelet, so it's a piece of jewelry. It's called the Love Bracelet, and it says right on there an exclusive Cartier design, but notice it also has the name Charles Revson. So we'll get back to that in a moment. So the story on this one, I was contacted by someone through my blog, therecycleista.com, and I had given her some help with some sewing patterns that she had and wanted to sell. And so we went back and forth quite a bit. And by the end of it, she said that she had some bracelets that she had bought back in the 70s. And she had one that was hers, that she wore every day back then. But then she also had bought one for her husband, and he had never worn it, like barely worn it at all. So anyway, so she had those 2 bracelets. Yes, it's in there. Huh. I was almost thinking the screwdriver wasn't in there, but it's in there. So more about the screwdriver in a minute. Okay, so there was one kind of used one and one kind of brand new. So what is interesting about this is, yes, there is a Cartier bracelet. Sorry, my phone. That's called the Love Bracelet. And it was, the original Cartier design was solid gold and very valuable. So she had also sent me these magazine clippings about the real gold version of it from Cartier. And it said in 1969, Aldo Cipulo, I'm gonna mess up names today. He was inspired, says he was inspired by chastity belts, and he designed a bracelet that you have to unscrew to take off. So there was that one. It's still popular. Celebrities, this is what this article is all about how celebrities just love this bracelet. And it's very trendy still. But what happened was in 1970, that same designer from Cartier, he paired up with Charles Revson, that name that you see on the front here. And Revson was the founder of Revlon. And they made a special edition, which is not solid gold, but it is electroplated. So they say that the other difference, and so here's the little screwdriver, and you use the screwdriver to screw it on and off. So here's the screw on there. So on a real solid gold, original Cartier version, I've heard, okay, that there's a screw on this end and a screw on this end. But the electroplated version has a screw at one end and then it's hinged here. So pretty easy to tell the difference. Also is the fact that right inside it has his name, Aldo Cipulo. I'm sorry if I'm murdering that. And it says gold electroplate right in it. And then it also says Charles Revson Inc. So you're not gonna get confused by a real one and a special edition one, electroplated one. So it's marked very clearly, but these are still very collectible. So it was amazing. Like, she wanted to just give these to me. And here's the little booklet thingy. So it has the original box and it's got the story of it, all that kind of stuff. It has the legend, I should say. Anyway, I just thought it was just amazing that she wanted to do that. And so she clearly said, she just thought I liking vintage things, that she didn't know who she wanted to give these to. And since I had helped her, she wanted me to have them. And she said I could keep them, I could resell them, I could, whatever I wanted to do. So I said I pulled these 5 things out to list this week, but this was one I'm still kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna hoard it, maybe just a little bit longer. I just like, where would you ever find one of those again? It's really cool. Anyway, so I thanked her. I said, are you sure? I said, they're worth sometimes like $400 or $500, but I don't know. So I might just hang on to that one a while until I decide what to do. But speaking of hoarding things that you find, I've got another story for you. So this next item, this is my goal, and you all can hold me to it. I need to get this listed. I looked it up and I bought this in May of 2015, 5 years ago. That's all right, 5 years ago. But it's May, so it's exactly 5 years. So I think it's appropriate. I think now would be a good time to list this. So let me show you what it is. It's kind of heavy. It's bigger than a bracelet. Okay, it's a typewriter, but it's not just any typewriter. It's an amazing typewriter. And you can see right on there, I don't know if you can read it, where the ring is, but it's Olivetti, which is good. And then right up in here, it says it's a Valentine. Okay, so you undo the full strap. It is missing. It should have 2 rubber straps, one here and one here. But this is the ingenious part of it. You lift up the handle, and there's your typewriter. Isn't that awesome? Isn't it pretty? It's so pretty. Okay, so here's my story on this one. I liked vintage typewriters, I really do. And see, though, that's the case. That's just awesome. So anyway, I had, back before 2015, I had been buying and selling vintage typewriters, and I had sold another Olivetti. I had sold just some basic ones, but ones like in really cool colors, like blue and turquoise and things like that, seem to sell the best. So as you're buying and selling typewriters, you're researching, and I had researched an Olivetti. It was a blue one that I had, and I think actually that one, I meant to look this up before I started this. The other Olivetti I had, I think it was a small portable one, and I think it was similar to one like Hemingway used or something like that. Not his, but just like the one he used, and it had a little vinyl carrying case. And I sold that to a hotel in New Orleans, someplace that I think it was Hemingway used to go and hang out and write and stuff, and they wanted it for a display, which I just thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, in the midst of researching Olivetti typewriters, I kept coming across the fact that one of the best ones to find would be the Valentine, and the red Valentine, because it's a design thing. So people love it. They just love the design of it. Of the Olivetti typewriters, it seemed to sell pretty well and for pretty consistent prices. And then also just being a vintage blogger and reading other people's vintage blogs back then, and just seeing people's finds and mid-century and all that kind of thing, I found that this came up really often. And so I it just kind of went onto my mental bucket list. It wasn't on my written down bucket list, but in the back of my head, I just thought, well, what are the chances? But if I ever see a red typewriter, besides the fact that any red typewriter would be interesting, would probably sell, I just thought I have to like keep this one in mind. So, and I wrote about this in my blog 5 years ago. So one day I had a coupon to use at Value Village, 30% off, and it was like my last day I could use it. So at the end of the day, I had some time. I was down there, and it was like I said, whenever you have a coupon, you can't find anything. And so I'm looking around the place, and I think I found some kids' clothes and some random things. So I'm over in hardware, and you're just standing there. They announced 15 minutes, the store's closing, and I was like, okay, tire chains, refrigerator filters. You're just kind of like, your brain is just kind of, your eyes are just glancing over everything, right? And so this is in its case, if you can picture it, right? It's in its case, sitting there on the shelf. And then fortunately, it was like facing this way out to me, like that, right, in its case. And I was looking at it, and it looked like a tool case, right? And I wasn't necessarily thinking to be looking for this. I'm just thinking red typewriter, but not at the moment, but just in general. And it just looked like a tool, right? And so my eyes are just like going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, I think the word Olivetti just finally registered. And I remember when I wrote about it on my blog, I was like, oh, I wish you guys could have seen the process inside my head, because it was like this slow motion of like, Olivetti, oh, typewriter, oh, red, oh, Valentine. And no joke, so I think it was sitting there like this, and it was partway open, like somebody had already looked at it, and it was open, and as soon as it registered, I like went over and I like slammed it shut, because I was like, I don't want anyone else to have it. I don't know what I was thinking. I just was trying to hide it. There was some other guys there like 5 aisles away, and I was like, no, it's mine. But anyway, and I couldn't believe it. And I got it for 30% off. And it was at the end of the day. So here's the funny part. Like, when you find, this is just me, I'm sure. When you find a bucket list item, like when I find a bucket list item, I hoard it. Because I'm like, I'm never going to find one again. So it's not like for 5 years I've had this on display. It's just been here. And it's time. It's time to let it go. So I did pull it out. It is what I know about it. So there was 2 people involved with it, Perry King, and here's another name I'm going to butcher, Ettore Satsas, no clue. Anyway, he's Italian, and Perry King is not. And anyway, they collaborated, they made this typewriter, designed it, and it is, I looked today, the Museum of Modern Art has one, but I don't think it's on display, but they have a little page on their website about it. So this was made in 1969. And so that's the story of it. It's called the Valentine, and I always thought it was red because of that, but I guess it also came in white, it came in egg yellow, blue, and pea green. So there are different colors out there if you do ever happen to see a hard plastic case like that. You just never know. Okay, can you hear that? That's my Keurig. That's really loud, and it's just sitting doing nothing. Okay, so that's first 2 items. Those were probably my most interesting stories, but I'm gonna show you just 3 more little things, okay? So the next is to go to the total opposite extreme of design, okay, modern, and then not modern is this little dish. But I would say that they've both been hanging around my house probably like the same amount of time, which is kind of weird. So this one, I don't know. I just thought it was super cute, and it had a little plate rack already on it. And I might even have bought it for myself. Like I was gonna do a plate wall. I could see it in some kind of eclectic, little bits and bobs and pieces of different things. And there was no marking, there's just an incised P on it. But I was like, you know what? It's cute. It's super discolored, right? It should be white in the back. And I've heard that there's things you can do with peroxide and things like that, but I don't usually mess too much with that because I think it would be cool as is, just like eclectic, like, right? Anyway, so I did ask about it in one of the vintage Facebook groups that I'm in, and I did get an answer. So it's Staffordshire Transferware. Now I'm not into, I don't sell or find that many antiques, so I knew it was transferware, but I didn't know much more about it. So it's Staffordshire, it's English, the manufacturer is Furnivals, and then the pattern, it's called Palmyra. And it's kind of this like Italian castle, romantic kind of look. But it comes in, I saw it on Etsy, someone has, one of the people in that Facebook group, actually, she has pink ones. They're so pretty. And hers are like really white. And so, anyway, it's just fun. It's fun to learn like the pattern names and everything. Now this is the really fun part. So my husband and I have started watching Antiques Roadshow, the British edition, the version, the original one, I guess, which I never knew was the original one. And we have been binging on it ever since. And it's kind of frustrating because we can't go thrifting. We can't go treasure hunting. And so what I decided I love about that one is the fact that like people are bringing, it's a lot of stories, right? There's the occasional, I found this at a car boot sale, but most of them are like my great grandfather and passed it down and all that kind of stuff. And so we were like, you know, that Antiques Roadshow, there's stuff from 1500s, 1600s, like you just don't see that on the American one. So anyway, this is they manufactured this pattern in between 1845 and 1870. And I'm like, honey, look, this is like the oldest thing we have in our house. Like we had an antique in our house this whole time and I didn't know it. Like, isn't that fun? Anyway, okay, so it's not worth a ton, but I probably will pop it up in my Etsy shop just because I think it would be cute. And anyway, okay, that's the story of that one. Totally different than the typewriter though, right? Isn't it fun to do all sorts of different things? Okay, the next one is just, you know, I told you, I just grabbed randomly things I want to list this week. This might be one of the last cross-stitch kits that I haven't listed. I haven't been selling a ton. I know a lot of people have been. People are at home wanting little crafty things to do right now. So I'm just going to throw this one on here. Again, I don't think it's worth a big amount of money, but it would be good to just get it listed now. But I just think it's one of the coolest cross-stitch kits that I've seen because it is based on a Frank Lloyd Wright window. And it's just called Art Glass 3, early 20th century Art Glass Window 3. And what it says on it is that it's an adaptation of an art glass window that Frank Lloyd Wright designed for the Avery Coonley Playhouse in Riverside, Illinois in 1912. So anyway, there's a few different versions of it. I just thought a little non-traditional type cross-stitch kit would be kind of fun. I don't really have a big story for that one or the background, but I just thought I would share that. So that'll be getting listed on eBay soon. Then for my last one is a sewing pattern because I do sell sewing patterns and I have plenty. But this one is just a little bit more unusual. It's a simplicity and it's just that it's large, a larger envelope. And you don't find those too very often. And so what I learned about it is it was only from about like 1949 to, what did I write down? Okay, so just late 40s, early 50s. So it's true, the ones that I saw there on, like other ones listed were 49, 50, 51. So this one is from 1951. And I did read on the internet, like they did, here, the envelope's not in great shape. And actually, the dress is kind of more business-like. some of the big gowns, the ones that are gowns and things like that, would sell for a higher price. It's a fairly good size. It's a 16 with a 34 bust. Not super tiny, not plus size or anything like that. Someone will want it. It is cut, and so I will have to sit down and count the pieces and make sure everything is there, or at least be able to tell them if there's any little teeny tiny pieces missing. But I'll just use this chart on the back, and you can compare what pieces are in there compared to the chart, and you can tell if you have everything or not. It is ripped up, like I said, but somebody will want it. And I guess what they were saying is that, you know, we're used to seeing Vogue in those big envelopes. So this is a Simplicity designer pattern. And this collection was probably just, you know, a little bit competing with those big Vogue designers. And the things featured on here were just a little bit of a higher style, they said, than their regular Simplicity patterns. But it was 50 cents back in 1951. And it says it's a one-piece dress with detachable trim for the sleeve and the collar. The dicky, which is this the collar, look at that big bow. That's wild. And then it has a little jacket, and the little jacket has kimono sleeves. But I just thought that was one of the more interesting patterns that I have, and it's time to get it out there. So anyway, that was the Recycleista report for this time, and hopefully we'll do this again. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if any of the finds, you have a story that kind of goes with it, or you sell the same type of things, or you've seen those before, go ahead, leave a comment below. Thanks so much. We'll see you later. Bye.